Ladies and gentlemen, today I invite you into the hidden sanctuary of your own being, a place where the visible world dissolves and the invisible takes command. I speak to you not as someone trying to give you tools, but as someone reminding you that you are the tool, the key, and the door. Let us begin where all true creation begins, not in action, but in imagination. Imagination is not idle fantasy. It is the womb of all reality. Everything you now experience was once imagined, whether consciously or unconsciously. To manifest what you truly want, you must become intimate with your own imagination. That is where seeds are planted. And what is imagined vividly, with emotion, becomes inevitable. But imagination alone is not enough. It must be felt. That brings us to the most vital step. Assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Close your eyes. See the world as it would appear if your deepest desire were already yours. Hear the sounds you would hear. Feel the emotions that would flood your being. Enter that state with all your senses. Make it real within. Because as within, so without. Understand this. Consciousness is the only reality. The world you see is merely a shadow cast by your inner state. If you want a different world, do not wrestle with shadows. Go within. Change your consciousness. Change what you accept as true, and the shadow must follow the substance. Now here's the beautiful secret. Live in the end. Don't worry about the how. Don't become entangled in the process. Dwell in the state where your desire is already accomplished. Walk, speak, and think from that end. This is not pretending. It is claiming what is eternally yours. And if you carry regret or pain from the past, do not let it weigh you down. Revise it. In the silence of your mind, recreate that scene. Replace it with what should have been, what you wish had happened. Your imagination can redeem the past, and in doing so, liberate your future. When doubts arise, and they will, remember, persistence overcomes resistance. Reality may delay, but it cannot deny what you consistently accept as true. Do not be swayed by appearances. Stand firm in your assumption. Hold the vision. Keep the feeling. The world must rearrange itself to match your inner conviction. So I ask you, what do you truly want? Not what you think is possible, not what others expect of you, but what do you really want? Dare to imagine it, dare to feel it real, and dare to persist until the unseen becomes seen. Imagination is not merely the act of daydreaming or visualizing fantasies. It is the very foundation of creation itself. Everything that exists, everything that has ever been made or achieved, began first in the unseen world of thought and image. Long before any object is touched or any action taken, it is conceived in the mind. The invisible always precedes the visible. Imagination is the workshop of reality, the sacred place where substance takes shape without yet having form. It is the silent architect drawing plans behind the curtain of the senses. To the world, this process is unseen and often dismissed as idle or impractical. But those who understand its power know that what is imagined with conviction will sooner or later harden into fact. This creative power is always active. We are always imagining, whether we realize it or not. Most people use this faculty unconsciously, allowing fear, doubt, or repetition of past failures to mold their future. But when imagination is used deliberately, with intention and clarity, it becomes the instrument of transformation. To imagine is to enter a state where the outer world is momentarily set aside, and the inner world is given full authority. In this sacred space, there are no limitations, no barriers of logic or circumstance. One can be, do, or have anything. It is in this state that we impress upon the deeper layers of consciousness the blueprint for what we wish to experience. Once impressed, that image begins to move. slowly at first, invisibly, until events, people, and circumstances align to bring it into expression. Imagination is the first cause. It is not a passive reflection of reality, but the force that precedes and shapes it. What is accepted and consistently imagined with feeling becomes real. Consciousness is the source from which all things arise. Everything we experience, our relationships, conditions, successes, failures, joys, and sorrows, is nothing more than a projection of our inner state of consciousness. The world we see outside is not separate from us, but a mirror reflecting back the assumptions we carry within. It is easy to believe that circumstances dictate our state of mind, but in truth, it is our state of mind that determines our circumstances. What we call reality is not fixed or objective. It is fluid, shaped by the awareness we bring to it. When we awaken to this truth, we begin to see that life is not happening to us, but through us. Each person lives in a self-created world, sculpted by their beliefs, assumptions, and inner conversations. Two people can walk through the same situation and have entirely different experiences, not because the world changed, but because their consciousness shaped their perception of it. There is no external cause. All cause is internal. Consciousness is the root, and the world is the branch. When we attempt to change the outer world without addressing the inner, we are like someone trying to fix their reflection in a mirror by touching the glass. True transformation begins within. When you shift your inner state, when you move from fear to confidence, from lack to abundance, from doubt to certainty, the world responds accordingly because it has no choice. It is your own consciousness outpictured. To recognize that consciousness is the only reality is to understand that your life is not governed by fate, luck, or external forces. It is governed by your awareness of being, what you are conscious of being. What you accept as true of yourself and the world is what you will continue to experience, for the world cannot outpicture anything other than what is within you. The key is not to fight against appearances, but to change the awareness from which those appearances arise. To assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled is to mentally and emotionally occupy the state in which your desire is already a fact. It is not mere daydreaming or idle hoping. It is a deliberate shift in identity, a movement in consciousness where you no longer long for what you desire. You embody it. You walk, speak, and think from the end, as if the wish has already materialized in your life. This act is performed inwardly. Nothing in the outer world needs to change in that moment. You close your eyes, withdraw your attention from what is, and enter the scene that would be true if your desire were realized. You create an imaginal experience that reflects your fulfilled desire, not just in visuals, but in emotion, tone, sensation. The key is feeling. It is the feeling that impresses the subconscious, and it is the subconscious that brings forth the manifestation. The moment you assume the feeling, you are no longer separate from your desire. You are not reaching for it, you are dwelling in it. This changes your vibration, your posture, your attitude toward life. It becomes the new truth you carry with you. Quietly but powerfully, even if the outer world continues to reflect the old story for a time, your inner world has already shifted. And because the outer is always an echo of the inner, it must eventually conform. This assumption must be made with faith, not blind faith in chance, but faith in the unseen laws of consciousness. You do not wait for permission or evidence. You decide. You claim it now in imagination. And in that claiming, the creative process begins. To live in the end means to mentally dwell in a state where your desire is already realized. To make your future goal your present reality in consciousness. It is not about hoping that one day your dream will come true, but about accepting here and now that it is already accomplished. This is not wishful thinking or fantasy. It is an inner stance, a conviction, a way of being that disregards the senses and trusts the unseen. When you live in the end, you no longer ask if or when it will happen. You no longer seek signs, proof, or validation from the outside world. You carry within yourself the certainty that it is done. You wake up with that feeling, fall asleep with it, and make decisions from it. You speak, think, and respond to life as the person who already possesses what they once desired. The outer circumstances may still reflect the old story, but you no longer identify with them, because your inner world has already shifted. This inner movement is powerful. It creates a new pattern in consciousness, and the outer world must reorganize to match it. You begin to attract experiences, people, and events that align with a version of yourself you have claimed. Resistance, fear, and doubt lose their grip because your attention is not on the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Your attention is fixed on the fulfillment itself. Living in the end is an act of radical faith. It demands that you ignore what the senses report and instead trust the reality of your inner vision. It is not passive. It requires discipline and persistence, a refusal to be swayed by appearances. But once you accept the end as real within, the journey becomes effortless. The bridge of incidents will unfold naturally, carrying you from the unseen to the seen without strain or force. Object revision is the deliberate act of reshaping your memory through imagination. It is the understanding that the past, while fixed in fact, is fluid in consciousness. By altering how you emotionally and mentally experience a past event, you change its effect on your present and future. You are not bound by what happened, you are only bound by how you continue to perceive what happened. And perception, unlike events, is always within your control. In revision, you take a scene that caused pain, limitation, regret, or disappointment, and you enter it again, not to relive it, but to rewrite it. You close your eyes, return to that moment, and imagine it unfolding differently. You hear new words, see new reactions, feel new emotions. You replace the old version with what you wish had occurred. This new version, once impressed upon your subconscious with feeling, becomes the new truth from which your mind and body operate. This is not denial or fantasy, it is healing. It frees you from the emotional residue of past experiences that unconsciously shape your behavior, expectations, and assumptions. When you revise, you are not changing history as written in the world. You are changing your inner relationship to it. And because the outer world is simply a reflection of your inner state, the effects ripple forward. Your reactions shift, your beliefs shift, your outcomes begin to reflect a new reality. The past lives on only as memory, and memory is imagination. By changing the imagined past, you influence the creative forces that shape the unfolding of your life. In revision, time is not linear. It is flexible, responsive, and obedient to your conscious direction. You are not a prisoner of what was, you are the author. Each moment gives you the opportunity to rewrite the script, and by doing so, change the entire performance that follows. Persistence is the quiet power that holds your vision steady when everything around you seems to contradict it. It is the unwavering decision to remain faithful to your inner assumption, even when the outer world presents every reason to doubt. Resistance shows up as delay, contradiction, or apparent failure. But these are not signs to retreat. They are merely the remnants of old beliefs still echoing through experience. Persistence is the force that allows the new assumption to take root and override the old pattern. To persist is to continually return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. It is to rehearse your desired state internally with such regularity that it becomes more real to you than current circumstances. When you persist, you are not forcing reality to conform. You are aligning with a deeper law that says consciousness creates. And because you understand this law, you do not panic at the first sign of opposition. You recognize that resistance is not a denial of your desire, but a test of your commitment to it. The senses may scream otherwise. The world may appear unchanged, but to persist is to know that appearances are deceptive, that they lag behind the truth you hold within. You do not abandon your inner vision because of momentary evidence. You stay loyal to it, not with desperation, but with quiet assurance. This is not about effort or willpower in the traditional sense. It is about consistency in belief, discipline in imagination, and faith in the unseen. Persistence builds momentum. With each moment you return to the state of fulfillment, you are reinforcing a new identity. You are saturating your subconscious with a new pattern. And once it is accepted, it begins to express itself with inevitability. Resistance cannot survive in the presence of such inner certainty. The world must yield. It must reorganize itself to reflect the dominant state you have claimed through persistent inner knowing. In the silence of your mind lies the seed of every desire you've ever had. You do not need to chase, beg, or strive endlessly to attain what you want. You need only to awaken to the truth that all creation begins within. Imagine clearly, feel deeply, assume boldly, live as though it were already yours, and remain faithful to that inner vision even when the outer world has yet to catch up. There is no power outside of you greater than the one that lives in your own consciousness. What you accept as true becomes your experience. What you revise becomes your freedom. What you persist in becomes your reality. So the question is not whether you can manifest what you want. The real question is, are you willing to dwell in the end, feel it real, and walk in the conviction that you already are what you seek? Thank you for allowing me to remind you of who you truly are. The dreamer and the dream, the creator and the creation. Thank you.